Well, you see right there, JB, history in the making already, and we'll see where the history making stops this season. Brockport has been a phenomenal success over the last two seasons. You and I were a little bit concerned about whether this year would be as good as last year was. If the sophomore jinx would hit Joe Germanario or not, and the rest of the team, if they would respond well from the success from 2017. What do you think so far? How have they been doing?
They've been doing great, and yeah, I think this is probably an even better unit than what we saw in 2017. We obviously got up close and personal view in week one, but they just continue to do what they do, and they're putting up a lot of points, and their defense is shutting teams down and out. I think they still hold a minus negative rushing yards for their total defensive rushing. It's incredible. But yeah, to your point, Frank, I mean, there hasn't been an East Region team ranked this high since 2006. And it's kind of funny. We were talking earlier offline that Brockport has been so strong that Pat and Keith on their Around the Nation podcast barely even mentioned it. It's sort of like, they beat Alfred 52 to zip. They're basically number
that
one
old thing.
Yeah. Big deal. So people are obviously taking notice. The AFCA has them also ranked at number 3. So one of the tweets I sent out over the weekend was, get used to saying the Brockport bracket. We still got a ways to go before playoffs, and I know there's a man on the other side of the screen who won't want to talk about that for another 3 or 4 weeks, but you got to give him credit. He's put together a heck of a team, and they are playing awesome.
And that is head coach Jason Mangone of Brockport. Thank you for joining us in the huddle once again here, Coach. Congratulations so far on what your guys have done this season, over the last 2 years, over however long you want to look back at this point. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Now, I know there is one big concern, though, Coach. The game versus Alfred, while it was a rousing success, 52-0, your team did give up 12 rushing yards in that game, according to the official statistics. Are you concerned about your defense's performance in that game?
Yeah, right. It's pretty well off when you're giving up 12 yards, and it's dramatically more than the previous 2 games. It's something that I don't want people to just expect week in and week out, because it's so alarming when probably other teams look at our run defense. But they take pride. Their goal is to have negative rushing allowed. Our defensive line, linebackers, and so forth. So it's fun every week to see what we come out with.
It's right now minus 7.7 yards officially on the NCAA site for Division III. Second team is phenomenal when you think about it. Another East Region team, Salisbury, at 17.7. So you're basically 25 yards in average better than the next team, which this deep into the season is impressive in and of itself for any statistics people out there. I've never seen anything quite like this. Even the Mount Union's out there. I don't remember them having numbers like this over their run. But look, you haven't won anything yet except for 6 football games. And I guess the first real question now is, how do you keep this team focused? How have you kept this team focused? Because like we said in the intro here, coming into the season, we didn't know if you'd be able to keep up this momentum, convince your team to keep up the momentum, etc. How have you accomplished that so far?
It's funny. It's same answer as last year. It's self-driven by the kids. We rarely have to refocus them. These are guys. We have 24 seniors, and these guys have long-term aspirations, and our aspiration is to win a national championship. And like we talked about today at our team meetings, you have to stay focused on your short-term goals in order to obtain your long-term aspirations. And it's been so little work in terms of keeping them focused. They are the ones that are extremely hungry, extremely focused, and prepare their tails off. So it's been a very easy job for us as coaches in that part.
And speaking of coaches, I know your defensive coordinator, Coach Fox, is obviously getting a lot of national attention for the for the defensive stats that his group is putting up. But when we spoke with you guys in the offseason, one of the questions we had about the team coming back was the offensive line. You graduated some really great players on your Final Four team from last year, but it seems like Coach Trotter and company, it's just kind of reloading back on offense. Tell us a little bit about the evolution of some of these younger O-line players, some of which I believe came in through regular recruiting, some had transferred or what have you, so they're maybe their second year or redshirt freshman type of thing. But tell us about your offensive line growth and what you see, what's been so good about it, and are there any areas you'd like to see any more improvement if that's possible?
Yeah, well, first, obviously, I always want to see improvement, and I think that's not just coaching cliche. It's you always are trying to find ways to get better day in and day out, and week in and week out, game in and game out, whatnot. So, but yeah, the O-line, our goal here at Brockport is to replace juniors and seniors with juniors and seniors, and we've sort of done that. We graduated 4 seniors last year, guys that had tons of starts combined. Mark Sanchez, one was a center that started from his freshman year all the way through his senior year. So losing 4 seniors and then having one back to be a senior, Caleb Ferdillis, who's having an outstanding season at tackle for us. The other 4 guys, we have a senior in Mike Ambrosio playing center, and then we obviously have another senior in John Demi playing guard, who actually came over from the D-line. And we sort of wanted him at the O-line from day one, but he wanted to be a D lineman, and he every day you can see his growth and his maturity as a player, because every day that goes on, he's getting more reps at doing the same thing over and over and over again. And, for us, we want it to be monotonous and not in a bad way, because we want you to have it down so good that you sort of kind of get bored a little bit, right? And obviously it never gets boring, but that's the goal. And then we've had a transfer and Luke Ludini come over, and obviously another kid in Purdell play tackle at 6'4", 280. So both of those guys are sophomores. So it's a great mix of 3 seniors, 2 sophomores, all talented. And then obviously Steve Potter, our line coach, does a phenomenal job with those guys and gets those guys ready technically, first and foremost, and then schematically ready to play every week.
So, Coach, 52-0. This was a game, you make a fool out of me every time, because I do these game previews now for D3Football.com's Around the Nation podcast, and I tried to sell everyone on the St. Lawrence game early in the season. It could be close. It could be, one of those, look-over games. Yeah, not so much. Then this Alfred game, for sure, this is going to be one of those classic Empire 8 battles where it could go either way. It didn't even get close. It was 52-0, for goodness sake. But Coach Rankel obviously has a good team there. Alfred is year in and year out a very good team. How did you guys – I mean, I watched it. I to a certain degree, I could probably answer this question, but how did you prepare for that game specifically to the point that not just defensively, you were all 3 facets of the ball were going right in that game? Maybe complete opposite of what was going on in the Ithaca game for you that you were able to pull out ultimately. So what was it about this game that went so right for this team?
Well, I think it's, again, we're not afraid to talk about where we want to be as a program. We took over a program in 2013 that had 15 wins in the previous 4 years. And from day one, we talked about winning championships and trying to establish the culture that we want here, the expectations that we want here. And this was a championship game. The winner of this game has won the conference the last 2 years. So, obviously a long way to go, but for a mid-season game, it had a lot on the line. Alfred was on the field in conference. I believe a 3-0. We were 2-0. So going to their place, always a tough place to play. Our kids were amped up from Monday on. They wanted this game to happen on Monday. They didn't want to wait till Saturday. So again, kind of going back earlier, sometimes it's harder for you to get kids ready to go when you're maybe 500 or 2-4 or whatever. When you're where we're at with the kids that we have, we have to, if anything, temper them down rather than have to pick them up. So our kids were ready to go. They were focused, had a great week of preparation, and they were ready from the locker room. There's a long walk there now from Alfred, from the locker room to the field. They would have sprinted to the field had we let them. And we came out guns a-blazing, and it was a good team by Alfred. And I would suspect that they probably will go. I don't know what the next 3 remaining games for them are, because I don't really care at this point, but I would have suspected they probably go 8-2.
Coach, one of the things that gets brought up a lot about teams that do end up contending deep into the playoffs year in and year out are all those extra weeks of practice that you get with the sort of the final 58 guys. Your team went a few rounds last season. Was that extra 3 or plus weeks of practice something that you felt you were able to carry into this season, and that these guys sort of realize this is because right now it's October 15th. Stag Bowl is literally, I think, two months from today on the 15th of December. So you still got 8 more weeks to go, but you only got 4 regular season games. So there's obviously a lot of season left. But what was that experience like for your team and for your coaching staff to keep going? All those days, not only to November but then into December last season.
Yeah, well, it's invaluable because to get that extra practice time is monstrous. In our sport, you can't, in the springtime, you don't put on pads, you don't have spring ball, the typical spring ball you see at the scholarship level. So it's actually very beneficial because we played, in essence, an extra 4 weeks by having the national semifinal. So guys like Purdell, right, guys like Mike Ambrosio, who I spoke of a minute ago, playing our line, they not only watched an amazing group of O-linemen last year, but they had all those extra reps in practice so that now we almost had the equivalency, if not more, than what a typical spring ball would be. And then they also get to see what it takes to win at a championship level. And we crossed a pretty good path last year, made some history in our program, but obviously didn't accomplish the ultimate goals that we had established for ourselves. So, we got a lot out of it. Our defense, we talk about them, proudly talk about them in depth, and 9 senior starters on our defense, 4 of which are fifth-year seniors. So these guys have been through the battles, and you add all those extra games, it's enormous for our program.
One of your largest fan bases right now, outside of Brockport, though, is the Mary Hardin Baylor crew. From your experience down there last year that I got to share with your team a little bit in the national semifinal. They were huge fans of Joe Germinario and the gameplay that he presented. They were huge fans of your defense because aside from the first quarter of play, you basically almost went to a draw with that team for the remainder of the game. What did you learn from that experience besides how great a stadium in Belton, Texas can look, I guess, to a certain degree? But what did you learn from that game that you have taken and sort of made yourself better as a coach with this season?
Well, I think the quick answer is you find out how far you came, but then really how much farther you have to go. And when you walk on that field and see Mary Hardin Baylor, who we have the utmost respect for, what their players look like, how talented they were, and really more importantly, how deep they were. They have, I would say, all 58 of those guys were outstanding, and that was and we were proud of our guys how we fought. We moved the ball a little bit, got the ball in the red zone, I believe 3 times, and my decision was to go for touchdowns. We were not going for field goals because of how stout their defense was as well. So we came up short, but obviously very proud of our kids, how they battled. And it's a great experience for our kids because not only did we as coaches find out we have to go a lot farther, but our kids ultimately knew that what we did last year was not good enough to achieve the goal that we want to set out for ourselves. So it was great to get back in the off season, and kids were so hungry to get back in the gym because they want to finish what our ultimate goal is.
Really is contagious when you see a situation like that, that's for sure. And to spend that entire day down there, just as a spectator and a fan of Division III football, it is an incredible experience. And your team was not taken by the moment, I can tell you that they were impressed, but just seeing them come off the bus and whatnot, they were, let's say, down to earth about the whole experience. And kudos to them for not folding completely in that game. They took that sucker punch up front and then pretty much fought the rest of the way. JB, I know you were impressed with that performance last year.
Oh yeah, definitely. And just what I saw in person, a few weeks ago, obviously all these things seem to be coalescing together. And Coach, one of the things that we weren't able to spend time with you when we were up there was you were busy with being a head coach. And one of the things we saw in your social media, which Brockport has been doing a really great job out there with all their athletic programs, not just football. But, I mean, it's hard to – maybe we can run a clip of it, Frank, but this new and improved Brockport locker room with the green lighting and I can only imagine, I have some kids that are getting a little bit too old for Christmas, but I can only imagine that those 18 to 22 or so year old men, when they walked into that locker room for the first time, and that newly designed, super awesome light, was it like Christmas Day for you guys there? I mean, that must have been really exciting.
Yeah, it was awesome. And we had kind of a picture of what it was going to look like the last day of spring, where we unveiled that we were going to get one, and the kids went crazy. And then when they actually had a chance to walk in, and the stereo's cranking, the LEDs are bright, the ceiling lights are off, and all the graphics and stuff that are all over the place. It was a generous donation from one of our alum that wanted to make a change. Brockport made an impact on him, and he wanted to make an impact on Brockport, and we were in dire need of one. And the end result is absolutely ridiculous. And I can tell you right now, we've gotten some great feedback because of what we're doing on the field from some prospects, but we're also getting unbelievable feedback from all those videos we had online about that locker room.
One of my most engaged tweets in my time on Twitter was the one from last night, where I basically pointed out, after doing some research with D3Football.com, that you have matched the highest ranking ever achieved by an East Region team, which is Rowan back in preseason week 3 of 2006. That's a 15-year history of that poll. Now, you and I are both old enough to remember the Beast of the East, Rowan. That wasn't the time frame of that, technically. This was their attempt at a resurgence in the mid-2000s. But to be in that rarefied air with a team like Rowan, and even having Frostburg State kind of breathing down your neck right now in that poll as well, which they are making some history when you think about what's going on with the top 5 right now. What does that mean to you as a football fan, a Division III fan, somebody that's been affiliated with this school for as long as you have been? What does that mean to you right now?
It's awesome. I mean, I think the one thing is, if you can't enjoy this, why do it, right? So we're not going to try to pretend that it's not happening. We're going to embrace it. We're not going to spend all day thinking about it. But at the end of the day, we're here to be successful. We're going to compete, and we're going to battle our tails off to be the best that we can be, on the field and off. So we're not going to be stoic and pretend it's not going on. We talked about it at our team meeting. We spent 5 minutes thinking about it, and we move on. But it's history, and this is something that our kids will for always remember. And again, we're ecstatic that we're there. Are we legitimately the third team? I don't know. It's our job to go out every game and every week and try to prove that we're pretty good. And we understand the kind of the perception of East Region teams over the years. I mean, only the first time since, I think you said 06, an East Region team to be that high. You get respect by earning respect. And the only way we can earn it is by going out and winning. And that's all we're going to focus on. And we got Buffalo State this weekend, and our focus is 100% on them. But in the back of our minds, we know where we want to be. But if you don't take care of business today and ultimately this weekend, then that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, and Coach Boyes does, he's always, done a good job with the kids that he has. He's pulled some pretty major upsets in his day. And I'm sure that they're like every game for you guys now, you have the target on your back as the top dog in the East Region. So you're going to get everybody's best effort. What have you really seen so far? I mean, I know their quarterback has a pretty strong arm. They've struggled at times here and there, but they're obviously not a team that you can just sort of look past to and start thinking about Cortland or somebody with a better record on your schedule a couple of weeks down the road.
Yeah, and kind of going off that point a little bit, you can't win 2 games in one Saturday, right? So all we focus on is on Bus State. And again, Coach Boyes, growing up in Buffalo, where Bus State by about a half hour away, I would watch games on CBS and whatnot when I was a kid, and just to see the ticker of the Bus State scores, because they were in the playoffs every year. So the amount of respect that we have for Coach Boyes and his staff and his program is unbelievable. And those kids will be ready to play. I don't care what their record is. I don't care what record we have. It's one game on a Saturday at 4 o'clock that's going to go to 7 o'clock, and whoever plays the best executes the best. And and plays the fastest will probably come out on top. But they have good players. When you watch them, watching their defense, they give up a few plays here and there, but people do not just walk down the field on them. They're a lot better than what their numbers show, stats wise. So we're gonna be ready for them, and I know they'll be ready for us, and it'll be a fun game.
Yeah, I have memories go back to earlier this decade when they pulled into Wisconsin Whitewater when they were the top dog at the time, and went in and beat them.
Yep.
And it was like a 7-3 game or something along those lines. So
7-6.
7-6.
Yeah, it came down to the extra point.
And so they know. I'm not going to oversell that game, though, Coach. I got to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I've oversold enough of your games this season. The Hobart game, the St. Lawrence game, the Alfred game that we talked about earlier.
So, Coach, I think what people really want to know, though, is this officially a Week 8 beard? And so when we talk to you down the season, we trying to get that closer down to the B on your chest, so that come playoff, or if you're headed to Texas or something like. Where are we starting from here, and are we expected to see further growth as the season progresses?
I've been kind of keeping it this way since the summer, so I think we may stay here. That last year was maybe a little out of control. That was I don't have to go too much on top, but it was a lot of maintenance. So I think this is about as far as I'm going.
All right.
Coach, don't make me pull out, and I'm probably running it over this right now if I know myself in post-production, the non-bearded version of you where you got the baby face basically in the old coach's picture. So, the then and now, you got to fear the beard. You definitely have to fear the beard compared to the old photo.
That's right.
The beard's 19-1, so I'm not getting rid of it.
There you go.
Coach Brandon Miller. I got to meet up close and personal this summer at Vent Fitness in Clifton Park. Now, I got to tattle on him a little bit, Coach, because I also know his lifting partner, former captain for RPI, a great defender in his time, Ryan Buss, whose brother actually plays at UConn right now. And Buss is there busting his butt all the time. Miller would seem to show up maybe twice a week in the summers, if that, and toward the end of the summer, didn't see him nearly as much. Is that the type of ethic that you're going to be able to clamp down on and make an example out of? Because I don't know, he might be looking a little soft, Brandon Miller. So, what do you have to say about this right now?
That's disappointing. We as a staff pride ourselves on working out. It's one of those deals, and it's sort of a serious note, is you ask kids, we can't take attendance, we can't mandate them to lift. We want to lift to show that at least we're willing at our ages, obviously he a lot younger than I, to go in there and battle. So when you're going twice a week, I got to get on him. It's what you're doing. Nobody's watching, right? And evidently he's not holding up his end of the bargain there, so we got to get on him a little bit.
Yeah, well, you'd be impressed. Buss is still in playing shape. You might want to look at him and see if he wants to coach a little bit at this point. But Miller is a great guy, though. I will say that much for him. Let him off the hook a little bit here. Great representative for your coaching staff, to say the least. And he was very upbeat about your team coming into this season. And I can see why. You guys are just rolling here. 6-0 record. Minus 7.7 yards allowed rushing wise. It's phenomenal. But Buffalo State is coming up here, and a lot more before we can even talk about that Jim Mora word of words, playoffs. So
playoffs, yeah.
Get things done. Last thing I do want to ask you, though, too, on a more serious note, you always bring up your family and the sacrifice that they make for you to be able to do this. How's that been going? Can you elaborate on how the family time goes when you're kind of the top dog right now in the East Heap?
Yeah, it's great. I get a chance on Sunday mornings before we come in as a staff to watch my two young sons play. They're 9 and 7. Shout out to Rochester, Rush Henrietta Renegades. They're 5 and 2, playing well. But if I get a chance to hang out with those guys as much as I can, I make sure I get home before they go to bed and spend some time with them. And obviously Mike Fox, our DC, spent time with his wife and his son, and Dave Blawa spent time with his family. It's important to us because obviously, you can kind of get wrapped up in this. And when they go to bed, I can get back to video. So absolutely important to spend time with them. And my wife's actually traveled to our last 2 away games and made the hikes out to Hartwick and Alfred. So, kudos to her for making the hike and the drive out there. But yeah, we spent as much time as we possibly could.
Coach, again, congratulations on the success so far. But we want to be talking to, an East representative deep into the postseason, no matter who it is, be it you or somebody else. So get ready here because we got a lot of football to go. And we'll see you hopefully or possibly at the end of November, beginning of December, to talk a little bit more about the Brockport Golden Eagles and the success that you have had this far.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you having me on.